Ingentis is a German software development company. For over 2 decades, Ingentis has been providing HR solutions to businesses around the world. The CEO of Ingentis is Michael Grimm. Recently, Bright Founders Talk extended an invitation to Michael to come on the podcast. While the talk only lasted for half of an hour, it contained a wealth of information for aspiring entrepreneurs. Please enjoy this conversation with Michael. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at TAMI. TAMI is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. It's time to introduce our today's guest, Michael Grimm, CEO of Ingentis. Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well and very nice to meet you and happy to be here.
Yeah, we're also happy that you find time to be here today with us. So we would like to hear from you all the details about Ingentis. But firstly, let's start from your personality. We want you to share with us what is your daily motivation.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What is my daily motivation? I mean, we've been starting the company 25 years ago, so that's quite a long time. And I think the motivation hasn't really changed since then. I mean, as a software development company ourselves, the best motivation for me is always to provide software and solutions to our customers and partners where we can really see that we add some benefit, that we make their business lives easier, better. And that's really what motivates me. So talking to those customers and partners and seeing, like I said, that the solutions we provide really make a difference. That's my biggest motivation.
You've been part of Ingentis for more than 25 years. I can only imagine how many people you've met, hired, and how many times your team has changed. What is the most difficult part in working with people?
The most difficult part in working with people, I think, is yourself. So you as a person have to develop because we are all human beings and we are all different. And that's good. That's the way it is. But it doesn't make life in a working environment necessarily easier. So you have to adapt to the people that you hire to a certain extent because they bring in skills and motivations themselves and also attitudes that you might not have, not you as a person and not you as a company. And this can sometimes be challenging, but it adds a lot of value because if everyone thinks the same in a company or in a team, it's less dynamic. And so having those dynamics is very important and is an advantage, but it can sometimes be challenging because you don't necessarily understand how those people think or why they're doing things the way they're doing. And that's where you have to get over that step and say, okay, let's think about it, or most importantly, let's talk, let's communicate. And this is key, I think. And this is something you have to learn, I think, during your career, no matter if you're an employee or if you decide to start your own business. I think it's quite the same.
I agree with you that our life is a journey of self-development, of continuous self-development, always. What do you appreciate the most in your team members?
That's a difficult question because meanwhile, our company has been growing to about 100 employees. Meanwhile, also, we have a US entity with about 10 people right now. And this is my main responsibility these days, actually. And so our team is quite big and quite diverse, also in different locations in Europe and North America. So I think what's most important for me and for us as a company has always been that we are trying to be a team. That's the most important thing in all. We don't like to have 100 individuals, but we like to be a team, and having this positive company culture is very important for us. And so this is always what I appreciate most with my employees and colleagues, if I can see that they are not looking for their own advantage, but that they always try to think, okay, what is good for the company, what helps my team to achieve our goals, and to have this kind of thinking. It's very important that every employee understands what are the company's goals. So why are we doing what we are doing? And so if we can achieve that, this is what I appreciate a lot, when I can see, okay, those team members or my employees, they understand why we're doing the things we're doing, and they're trying their best to help us to get there.
Let's talk now more about Ingentis. Ingentis provides outstanding software solution intended to facilitate HR processes by helping companies gain insights into the organization. So my question is, what insights exactly? Maybe you can even share real examples from history.
Our software, you have to imagine, is a lot about visualization. So this is what we mean with those insights, because nowadays, and that's very different from like 25 years ago when we started the company, the amount of data that companies have available, that they are generating by themselves, has grown tremendously. So there's a lot of data that all the companies have, especially the bigger the companies, the more data they have. So it's good to have those data because there's a lot of valuable information in those data. But the challenge is always, how do I get there? How do I really find out what is in those data? And that's where our solution comes into play from an HR perspective. So we take those data and visualize them. And we are able to visualize them in very different and very flexible ways. The way we started was with an organizational chart, but the software was really growing from there now to a holistic visualization solution. And basically, if you ask for an example, you can pick everything which is currently interesting for an HR person. So if you talk about diversity and inclusion, or if you think about open headcount management, if you think about how has the world changed with people working in the office or in the home office. So a lot of new challenges, and you have to know what your employees are about and how they are working actually to make the right decisions, to put the right work environment into place. And all those decisions have to be based somehow on data. And this is what we are able to provide. We are visualizing, and then you can see, okay, let's go back to diversity and inclusion in this area of my organization. I might have to do something about, because I have 80% women working there. So I have to try to figure out how some men could be working in this area of my business, and the other way around. And so everything, to take actions, you need to know what the current situation is. And that's really where we are very good at, to visualize that, and really in a very flexible way. So we are not saying this is the visualization and this is good for all companies out there, but we can do this very individually, because companies are so different depending on the industry or in the country they are operating in, and we offer this flexibility.
How did you exactly come up with the idea of launching the company?
So I have to go back a little bit. So when we all met the founders of the company, and the 4 founders are still on board nowadays. We met at a software development company, a bigger software development company in Germany. And that's where we did what's called Ausbildung. This is a very German concept where you go into a company half-time and half time you still go to school and you learn to
Mm-hmm.
become whatever. And we learned to become software developers for 3 years. That's where we met. And after that, we stayed in the company and we formed a team in this company doing individual software projects. And after 2 or 3 years, we decided, hey, we work together so well, maybe we could start our own company doing basically what we did inside this company, but open ourselves towards the market and do this for all other companies who need our help. And that's how we started the company. So typical individual software development company.
Okay, so as you said, let's come back a little. It's
Mm-hmm.
1997, the year when Ingentis was founded. What did your MVP look like?
Yeah, I mean, what we offered back then was really individual software development. So it was not a specific product where we started actually. So people were able to come to us and ask for whatever they needed, as long as we could solve it with a software development project. So that's what was our offering back then.
Mm-hmm.
After, I would say, maybe 2 years, we got a request from a company who needed a solution for an automatic organizational charting tool. And that's where we started developing this for the first time. And after finishing this project, we thought, hey, this looks interesting to us. If this customer is coming to us asking for an individual development, maybe there's not a good tool out there, but it could be a tool that you could simply buy. And so that's where we started really developing what is now called Ingentis Augment, our flagship product.
Okay, 25 years is a quarter of a century, so it's a lot of time for ups and downs. What was the biggest challenge you faced in Ingentis?
I mean, I'm really lucky enough to say that there were no real downs in our history. I think we grew the company in a very German way. So what I mean with that is it was not the way that a lot of, especially technology companies, are now started, let's say, for example, in North America, where you have a good idea and then you go out and you get venture capital and then you start working and either it works out or it doesn't. So for us, it was different. It was always our own money. So we didn't have any outside capital back then. So we really were working on our project, and so really slowly but steadily grew the company. And this is still going on until today. So we were never downsizing the company. So we grew over 25 years. So there was no, like you said, no major down. But absolutely, yes, there are up and downs when you develop a company, and a lot has to do with for us, at least, with the partners you are working with. So since we have offering a solution where we partner with big software companies like Oracle, like SAP, and all those relevant players in the HR sector, it's very important to have a good relationship with those, because the better the relationship is, the better you can develop your solution, and they can also help you getting customers. And there were a few up and downs when you work with such big companies. They simply change things, whatever it might be, from a business perspective, from a technology perspective, and you have to adapt. And that's sometimes challenging for a smaller company. So this is what I would pick, which caused the most up and downs, maybe.
Your company brings software solutions, so it's obvious that you are always up to date in the technology area. What tech stack did you have at the beginning compared to that you have now?
At the beginning, we started developing the solution as an on-premise solution, obviously, and it was mostly built on using C++. And then after, I would say, already like 5 years, we offered a web solution which was based on HTML, basically. So that was the tech stack back then. And you're right, developing this for 25 years, you have to do a lot of things. Technology is changing. And so we did a major relaunch in maybe 2014, something like that, where we introduced a new solution. So, which was obviously then more built towards web technologies as such. And especially, and that's maybe the most interesting part here, we started developing modules, especially for, again, partner platforms. So as an example, there is the SAP Business Technology Platform, which allows you to develop solutions specifically for SAP customers. And so we used modules from our software and really adapted them to, again, our partner solutions, which gives you an advantage in this type of environment. And then certainly, I mean, meanwhile, we are using for the visualization component, so you can use everything in your browser. So you always have to adapt to the newest technologies. Unfortunately, I have to admit, I'm not the best person anymore to talk about the technology details. But I think that's pretty straightforward.
What is the uniqueness of your solution in Ingentis? When I see some software, I might think, oh, it's similar to what Ingentis is doing.
I mean, like every other company, we have competitors, but still, it's a niche sector where we are in. So there are, I would consider globally, maybe we have 3 or 4 competitors which do, like you say, comparable things, but always just to a certain extent. I think where we are really good at is this very holistic approach, and it's our roots, it's our history, where we are coming from. So having this combination of an organizational charting software, which is still extremely relevant in the HR space. It's pretty easy to understand. So if you have a global company like a Coca-Cola or a BMW or all the big brands, we talk about maybe 100,000 employees and maybe more. And there's no way that you can visualize an organizational chart by drawing it manually. So it's just impossible. Knowing that, and knowing that the major software providers usually have very limited capabilities in their solutions to do this organizational chart visualization, you can already see, okay, there's a gap, and this is the gap we are filling. And like I said, there are a few other competitors out there doing something comparable, but then adding all our visualization capabilities, which exceed the classical org chart by far. This is really something where we have a unique offering. And so you solve this problem of visualizing your organizational structure very easily. Plus, you have a very powerful HR visualization tool where you can also use all sorts of other visualizations that help you to run your business.
You've already mentioned some of your partners. I have seen on your website your list of clients, and it's quite impressive. BMW, Nestle, World Bank, Siemens, and it's only a small part of all of your clients. So could you please share feelings about responsibility to work with companies of such scale?
Yeah, it's a learning process as well, as we talked about earlier. When you start a business and you are a very small team, it's extremely challenging to win big clients as customers. And I mean, talking to the viewers of this interview, when I think about starting a company right now, I think I'm afraid I have to say it's even more challenging nowadays than it was 25 years ago. The reason is that the legal restrictions have become more difficult, and not only in Europe. I think that's a global phenomenon. And also, when you think about data security, certainly people were aware to have their HR data in a secure environment 25 years ago as well, but it's a completely different story nowadays with all those cloud solutions, because 25 years ago, everything was on premise. So you took care of your data security yourself. And you decided, okay, I work with this company, but everything is within my network. And now a big company has to decide to work with a company and basically provide their data to this company in their cloud solution. And so there has to be a lot of trust. And this is just more difficult as a small company to really provide this security and to build that trust, like I said, than it maybe was 25 years ago. So but it's absolutely, it's possible. It's hard work, I think, and you have to do a good job with the first customers you win and who trust you. And that's also where you have to learn, how do those big organizations work internally? So what do I need to do to make them happy? Basically, it's so much different from your startup that you're used to, because you have all those different people. You have specific people for legal, HR, technology, completely different people again making the decision if you really going to buy your product or not. And you have to really find the right way to talk to all those people, and to navigate those complex networks, which are a little bit different with every new customer you're talking to. And I think that's really the challenge. But you have to find a way to think or to understand the way they are thinking and working. Because if you have the mindset of your own little startup and you think they function in the same way, no, they are not.
Okay, so you have profound experience in your industry. On your mind, what are the top 3 key vectors of development HR software solution for the next 2 years?
I mean, it's a few of the things. When I always try to answer those questions, looking back 5 years and thinking about what has happened, because it's always it's always tricky to predict the future, because if we would have spoken 3 years ago, there was no corona, there was no really topic about working from home. Yes, it was possible, but it was not a big deal. And then just like that, the whole world changed, and so it's always difficult to really predict what's coming. So what is still there is definitely certainly this topic as such, the way that our work environments have changed. So this is something which will still be relevant in 1, 2, 3 years, because companies are still adapting, companies still finding the right way to handle it. And so this is still going to be a big issue. And then certainly, I think the biggest impact right now will be economy, because with Corona and the war in Ukraine, like I said, our world has changed, and this is certainly affecting also the way HR has to work and think. So those economical challenges will definitely will have an impact. We can already see it partly, but I think it will still change a lot. And what that really means for HR technology and how we have to adapt, I think it will be a lot about, and that's not different from 20 years ago. It's the most important thing for every company, for every organization on this planet, is its employees. That's the most important thing that everyone should care about. And we can see that as a small company, hiring good talents is extremely difficult these days. Finding the right people, even with this, that we are now no longer have to say, okay, you have to move, let's say, to Germany or wherever, and you have to move to this city because there's our office. Okay, this is not that relevant anymore, or you can do it in other ways as well. But still attracting those people, and then also giving them a feeling that they belong to this company, that they really can take part in a positive company culture that you are offering if they are working remote. I think those things are very, very important in the future. And how can HR technology help in doing that? Again, you have to collect the data, and then you have to visualize the data, and then you have to make those decisions that help you achieving those goals. I mean, answering this question more detailed, if I would be able to do that, what is relevant in 3 years, in 4 years from now exactly, I would be very happy, but I'm happy about saying that since our solution is offering this flexibility, and if whatever may come, if we have some way to have data to show the relevant information, then I already know we are prepared for that. And I mean, the Corona pandemic proved us that. So our customers really used our solution to visualize relevant data, which were just becoming relevant because of Corona, which were not relevant before, and we didn't have to adapt our software. So really having this flexibility was very beneficial for us, and it will still be in the future as well.
During our conversation, you've already mentioned some tips for our watchers. So what can you recommend more to those entrepreneurs who are only on the beginning of their path?
Yeah, number one would be what I exactly said, because it doesn't matter if you're a huge organization or if you're just a startup, and try to build a team that you trust and where you feel like, okay, those are good people I like to work with. I think it's even more relevant with a startup, because let's say you start a company and you have 5 people at the beginning, or 10, I don't know. If you have 1 or 2 in there that just don't fit in, or just don't bring the motivation or whatever, it's already like 20% of your company. If that happens to a global organization with 500,000 employees, you cannot avoid to have some people in your organization which are not like top performers or something, but that's fine because you have thousands of people, but if you're a startup, you really have to pick your colleagues very carefully, because they will be crucial to your success. Because you as a founder, or if you're a small team like we were, 2, 3, 4 people, you can only do so much, and at some point you have to have employees that you trust and that bring in the same motivation that you have. And if you find those people, treat them well. That's all I can say, because this is going to make the difference if you are going to be successful or not. There was someone much smarter than me who said, the customers are important, but the most important asset in your company is not your customers, it's your employees. If you treat your employees well, they will treat your customers well, and then you will be successful.
Yeah, and it's deadly true. I agree with that. Okay, so honestly, it was my last question. I want to thank you, Michael, for this interview.
My pleasure, and I hope I could add some value